Good evening, everybody. The time is now 5 o'clock. I will call the February 28th, 2023 regular meeting of the Mill Creek Township Board of Supervisors to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will take any public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Does anybody wish to speak on agenda items other than zoning or redevelopment? Okay.
Is it okay if the agenda item is under communications? It's on the agenda?
I believe that qualifies as an agenda item, yes.
My name is Sue Weber, and I live at 5338 Norris Drive. Before I start, I'd like to make a quick comment. I have heard that Mill Creek Township wants to hire a consultant to figure out why we're flooding. Down in the engineering department is a study by Hill Engineering. It took 2 years. It was paid for with tax money. They looked at every pipe, every catch basin, everything in this township, and the solution to the flooding is in that report. There's no need to hire a consultant, just read that. Today, I'm going to talk on the agenda item, consideration of a special public meeting of the Mill Creek Township General Authority. Whether you agree with this project the township is undertaking or not on 8th Street, I don't think anybody can disagree with the lack of transparency in the way it was done. The second-class township code says you can't pay more from property than it appraises at. An authority was formed, bought the properties, some of them for double the appraisal. Supervisors took the money, gave it to the authority that they sit on, they bought the properties with it. What the agenda item says is consideration of a special public meeting of the Mill Creek Township General Authority. And the reason that's important is because if this authority wants to prove that they want public input about how they're spending the public's tax dollars, they'll do this. Because the authority can meet, and I looked at the agreements they have to purchase the 3 remaining properties, the Manor Motel, the Bel Air, and the Sandbar. And incidentally, they didn't even bother to get an appraisal for the Sandbar. Who spends almost $1 million without an appraisal? They can put the 3 pending sales on hold. They can have a meeting to put them on hold. The township can do that, or the authority, without losing their deposit or suffering any problems, and ask and stop the sales of those properties until 30 days after March 21st, which is the public hearing. There will be 2 hearings or meetings that day so the public can weigh in. So if the authority really wants to hear what we have to say, and it's our money they're spending, they'll do that. Prominent business leaders, many people have come forward, and they want and need the opportunity to comment. And they want the authority to take their comments and digest them before these sales move forward. I ask that you please vote to urge the authority to have a special meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak at this time? You will have an opportunity under citizens to be heard as well. Okay.
Yes, my name is Mary Schaaf, and I live at 5109 Watson Road here in Mill Creek Township. I'm the former county controller. And I feel, as a citizen of Mill Creek, that the fiduciary responsibility that the 2 supervisors and the authority has to the taxpayers and citizens has been breached. We have other issues that need to be addressed with the money that came from the water authority as far as the maintenance of roads. And we're hiring a full-time fire captain and members of the fire department. We have needs which that money that came from the sale of water authority was meant to be used for. Getting into the business of buying property, I think, was something that none of us anticipated would happen with that money.
Mary, this would be better
suited under citizens to be heard, unless you're going to comment on an actual agenda item.
Okay.
That's where you have a chance for 5 minutes to talk at the end.
Okay, well, that's all I wanted to say, and I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand
I know
the
it can get
agenda, so
confusing.
thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Okay, anybody else wish to comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning? Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the bills. Any questions or comments on the bills? Hmm? Oh, approval of the minutes. Let's do that first. Approval of the February 14th, 2023 minutes. Any questions or comments on the minutes? I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. I would like to add that Mr. Olet is absent tonight. Obviously, he is not available for the meeting tonight. Okay, next is approval of the bills. Any questions or comments on the bills? I'd like to make a motion to approve the bills.
I will second.
Okay, Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next up is a firearms purchase, Mill Creek Police Department. Chief Mook?
Yes, sir. I'm requesting approval for the purchase of 2 Tika T3 through 8 rifles, 2 Leopold scopes, 2 dead air Sandman suppressors, and 2 precision scope ring kits. Additionally, 2 tripod kits and 2 sniper bags. Our current sniper rifles are aging and are no longer recommended for use in law enforcement, according to a nationally recognized sniper expert. The MPD SWAT team has used 2 Barrett MRAD through 8 precision rifles with suppressors and scopes since 2005. They have an estimated 4,000 rounds fired each, and they are in need of replacement soon due to age. Quotes were obtained for buyback of the current rifles and purchase of the new rifles. Keystone Armory provided a trade-in value of $5,200. Prescott Gun Shop, $6,700, and Edinburgh Outdoors, $8,200, $7.90 with consideration of the trade-in values. I'm recommending the purchase trade-in be approved via Edinburgh Outdoors. The total cost of the transaction to the township will be $3,607, which would fall under the ammunition portion of the budget.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments on this? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of these 2 .308 rifles.
And I will second.
Okay, Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
I vote yes. Next up, we have a server.
Thank you.
Rob?
Good evening. The Sewer Department is seeking approval to purchase a new PowerEdge R6515 server due to a failure with our existing server. VelocityNet provided a price of $18,262 per the attached quote. Funds for this will be taken from the Lucity conversion to the cloud line of the sanitary sewer capital budget, leaving a balance of $31,738. It is my recommendation to purchase this new server from VelocityNet.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions on the server, Kim?
Nope.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve this purchase of the new server.
And I will second.
Okay, Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next up, we have a vehicle purchase. Mark, did you want to handle that?
I guess.
It's all yours.
Given the fact that we're soon to be, we'll start our search for the fire chief, he will need a vehicle to, just like the fire chiefs at the various fire departments currently in the township, to get to the scene of a fire. So there's a request to purchase a 2023 Chevy Tahoe for the new township fire chief position. The cost of and that's from Hallman Chevrolet. It's a CoStar's contract 25109, and the cost is $48,290. That money, those funds will be taken from the equipment portion of the fire tax.
I have a question about the fire tax, Mark. What is the projected total tax that is going to be received to go into that fund initially?
It's about $1.5 million, I believe, for this year.
Okay.
And just just under 700,000 is designated for equipment.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mark. Any other questions? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of this vehicle for the new fire chief.
And I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Street light assessment billing forms. Mark, you handling that?
Yes. We're using a vendor that's not our current vendor for these forms because we're converting to the new Edmund software for streetlight billing this year. So the layout of the forms are a little bit different. So we are going to order 14,000 forms in total, 10,000 green, which is the original mailing, and then 4,000 red. Those are the delinquents for a total cost of $3,126. Those funds would come from the streetlight expense line item in the admin budget.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of the streetlight assessment bills for $3,126.
And I'll second that.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item number 7, Resolution 2023-R7, Resolution of Mill Creek Township, Erie County, Pennsylvania, to authorize application for an H2O PA grant in the amount of $2,335,919 from the Commonwealth Financing Authority to be used for the Kearsarge Force Main Replacement Project and to appoint designees to execute all documents regarding said grant. Mr. Waldinger, is that yours or is that Mark?
The only thing I would point out in looking at this, this was taken from the form that was used the last time this had to get approved, so it still has Dan as the chairman, so I would, in your motion, just note that that would be changed to yourself for purposes of this resolution.
Okay.
So, Matt, you can handle the details.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is a authorization for Dave Wright in the sewer office to apply for an H2OPA grant. Total amount would be $2,335,919, and that would be used for the Kearsarge Force Main Replacement Project. It's currently reaching the end of its useful life and needs to be replaced, and so we're seeking these funds to help pay for that replacement.
Okay, Matt, this is a large amount. It's a pretty big.
The total project, the total project I believe is estimated to be in the $3.7 million range.
Maybe if you could just touch base real quick on exactly what this is so the audience knows.
The H2OPA grant, it's one of the federal grants. I'm not sure which program, if it came from IIJA or ARPA, but it was opened up for applications. We did find out that we are eligible to ask for 2/3 of our costs, and so that's what we've done.
Okay.
And that's what we'd be applying for.
I was referring to the project itself.
Oh, the project, there is a force main. It's basically a pressure sewer that comes from the pump station that's directly north of the Mill Creek Mall off of Zimmerly Road, and it actually crosses I-79, heads north, crosses Grandview Boulevard, and connects to a gravity sewer that's actually in the city of Erie. It's pumped that entire distance. And like I said, we're having breaks on the line. It's reaching the end of its useful life, so it will have to be replaced throughout from the pump station to its point of terminus.
And when is this project slated to start?
I believe it is scheduled to be done next construction season.
Okay.
We're working through we have most of the final engineering done, and then the project would be constructed next year.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve this resolution 2023-R7 with the change that I be designated as the chairman on the resolution for signature purposes.
Yes, and I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to
Yes.
make sure I give Dave Wright a shout out because he worked very, very hard on this project, and he worked very closely with the engineers in order to apply for this grant funding, and it was pretty laborious. So he did a great job. So shout out to Dave Wright.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Okay, number 8 on our agenda, is the authorization for a solicitor to file a property maintenance code enforcement action in the Court of Common Pleas of Erie County regarding property maintenance code violations at 1025 Northgate Drive, Erie, PA 16509. Mr. Shaw?
Yes, this is a request to authorize us to file a property maintenance code enforcement action in the Erie County Court of Common Pleas with respect to the property located at 1025 Northgate Drive. Department of Code Enforcement has referred this matter to our office for purposes of filing the civil enforcement complaint. Property has a number of exterior property maintenance code violations. Since 2019, the Township Department of Code Enforcement has attempted to resolve the issues with the property owner. Unfortunately, the property owner has failed to respond to the notices of violation and/or to correct the violations. So we would request the authorization to proceed with preparing and filing a complaint to enforce the property maintenance code with respect to property located at 1025 Northgate Drive. Effectively, this would allow the township to go in and take care of the problem and then ultimately put a lien on the property if the property owner doesn't reimburse the township for those costs. It has to go before the Court of Common Pleas because the district justice can't offer that kind of relief.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any questions? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve authorization for the solicitor to file that action in the Court of Common Pleas.
And I'll second.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Number 9, communications, treasurer communications. Mark?
Nothing further at this time.
Okay. We have a promotion request from the administration department for Monica Ziegler to take the role of community relations and sustainability coordinator at the rate of $18.29 per hour. Start date March 1st, 2023. Monica currently works as a receptionist for Mill Creek Township. She has previous experience at Berkheimer as a team coordinator for 8 years and as a tax processor for 8 years. I'd like to make a motion to approve the promotion of Monica Ziegler.
I will second.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, we have a hiring request from the police department. Chief Mook?
Yes, sir. Request to hire Philip Munro as a probationary police officer with a start date of March 13th at the rate of $29.50 per hour. Mr. Munro is currently employed with the Erie Police Department and was previously employed with the St. Vincent Police Department. He served 9 years in the Marine Corps, completing tours in Afghanistan and Australia. And he re-enlisted after his initial contract to continue with their intelligence program. He completed his bachelor's degree in criminal justice in just 2 years from an accelerated program through the GI Bill. He lives in our community and knows it well. Recently, myself, the 2 police captains, and our HR manager did interviews with applicants, and he came out number 1 on that list. So I recommend the hire of Philip Munro.
Okay, thank you, Chief. I'd like to make a motion to hire Philip A. Monroe as a probationary police officer.
I will second.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, next up, we have a training request. Department of Public Relations and Sustainability is requesting the Township Communication Coordinator Samuel Peterson attend the class GT 318 Public Info in All Hazard Incidents. It is free and hosted all day, both March 8th and 9th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The course is located at the Erie County Public Safety Center with instructors provided by Texas A&M. I'd like to make a motion to approve this training request.
And I will second.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, we have a police training request. Chief?
Yes, I actually have 3. I'll read them all
Okay.
first. The first request is for Corporal Mays to attend a one-day training titled Recognizing and Identifying Domestic and Homegrown Violent Extremism. The course date is March 23rd. It's at the Erie County 911 Center. This training will provide benefit to Corporal Mays in his role On the Regional Erie Bomb Squad, the course tuition is free, and because of the location, there are no travel costs. The second request is for the 3 patrol platoon commanders, Farrick, Shimera, and Haynes, to attend a virtual 2-day training course from the National Tactical Officers Association titled Supervising Patrol Critical Incidents. The training is March 21st and 22nd. The purpose of the course is to provide patrol supervisors with the information and tools needed to manage a critical incident prior to the arrival of SWAT. Course tuition is $304 per person, but with Haynes, there's a discount because he's a current NTOA member. His cost is $249, so the total tuition cost is $857, taken from the training budget. Because of the virtual nature of the training, there are no travel costs. And the last training request, I'm seeking approval to send 3 patrol corporals, Constable Washuk and Presnar, to a field training officer and leadership course at the Mercyhurst Police Academy in Northeast, April 27th through the 28th. This course was developed to promote leadership techniques and field training techniques to reach newly hired police officers. These 3 patrol corporals are in a new supervisory capacity. They have yet to attend a training such as this. The course registration is $295 per person for a total training cost of $885, to be taken from the training budget. Because of the location, there are no travel costs.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments on these training requests? I'd like to make a motion to approve these 3 training requests as presented.
And I will second.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
I vote yes. Next up, we have a training request from our Parks and Recreation Department, Director Ashley Marsteller.
Thank you. The Parks and Recreation Department would like to send 3 employees, Scott Bridger, Phil Falbo, and Joe Tallarico, to a free excavator training session held on March 23rd at the Lakeshore Country Club from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. The course will cover excavation damage prevention and excavator responsibilities under PA Act 287 as amended. There is no cost for this training session, and the employees are requesting to travel to the training in a township vehicle. It's my recommendation to approve sending Scott Bridger, Phil Falbo, and Joe Tallarico to the free excavator training session with the use of a township vehicle.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion for approval of this training request.
And I will second.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. We have a training request from the Planning and Development Department, Matt Waldinger.
Thank you very much. Matthew Puz Jr., the Township Zoning and Development Officer, would like to attend the 2023 ASFPM Annual National Conference. Mr. Puz is also the Township's certified floodplain manager, and this conference would allow him and give him the continuing education credits to maintain his certification. The conference is being held May 7th through the 11th, 2023. It does have a virtual option, which Mr. Puz is eligible for as a member of the ASFPM. And he can also receive an early bird discount by registering before April 1st. The total cost would be $650. I would recommend that he is permitted to attend this training to maintain his certified floodplain manager designation. The funds will come from the Planning and Development training budget.
Thank you, Matt. I would like to make a motion to approve this training request.
And I will second.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, next up we have the Acado Annual Firemen's Conference Dinner to be held Thursday, March 30th, 2023 in McCain. Cost is, I believe, $15 per person. So are we just approving up to? Okay, so, yeah, I may attend. Okay, there may, I believe we usually invite up to maybe 3 chiefs or 5 chiefs, or, okay. So, do we need to approve just the amount today, or the number? Or just that, there's nothing specific on here as far as, okay.
Yeah, I think if you're talking 6, so it'd be up to 6, which would be, I think, $90 if it's 15.
Okay, and that covers all the chiefs?
That would be the three if it, you know, if that's typically who goes.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to make a motion for attendance at this dinner up to 6 attendees for a total of $90.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, next up, we have a
Announcement.
announcement regarding the refuse and recycling bills coming from Erie Waterworks. This was in the recent In Mill Creek magazine. Starting in April 2023, charges for refuse collection and recycling will be listed as a line item on the quarterly Erie Waterworks bill. The change was first announced in the new issue of the In Mill Creek magazine, and just several questions have arisen from residents regarding the change. Mill Creek Township streamlined the billing process for trash and recycling services. Starting in April 2023, charges for refuse collection and recycling will be listed as a line item on the quarterly Erie Waterworks bill. The consolidated bill does not affect the amount paid, nor does it affect the contracted hauler. The billing change is to make the process more efficient, streamlined, and easier for residents and administration to navigate. Please update any automatic payments to reflect this change. Additional notices are set to be mailed to residents. To report a missing trash, recycling, or leaf collection, please contact Waste Management at 833-1111 extension 133. Anything to add to that?
No, I think you said it all.
This is commonly done in other municipalities. We researched this, so just to be clear, you will not be getting a waste management bill any longer. That you're used to getting a separate bill. Unless you're a renter and your landlord pays the water and sewer bill. So if you're a tenant and you currently get a waste management bill, I believe you will continue to get a waste management bill. Is that the understanding?
I think they may, I believe they'll get an Erie Waterworks bill if it's just trash.
Yes, they'll get an Erie
Okay.
Waterworks bill.
Okay.
Whether it goes to the renter or to the landlord, I can't say with absolute certainty at this point.
Okay. So
Yeah, the only billing that won't change is the pay-as-you-go, because people purchase the bags here at the Township building.
Right, correct. Okay. All right, we have some, unfortunately, we have to make 3 announcements here regarding some recent incidents that have led to people passing away. We'd like to acknowledge 3 individuals here. The first one is Devon Maurice Dante Hubert, who passed away on February 13th, 2023. He was an employee of Waste Management and passed away due to a workplace accident while on the job in Mill Creek Township. We'd also like to acknowledge Linda McCabe. Linda was a resident of Mill Creek Township, and she had served on the Mill Creek Township Planning Commission. She was a district office manager at Representative Bizarro's office for 10 years. She was very active in the Erie County Democratic Committee for more than 20 years. And also, we have a retired Mill Creek Police Department Lieutenant Dennis "Denny" Orr. He began his career at Mill Creek in 1969 and retired in 1997. 1997, excuse me, almost 30 years with the department. He worked in the Investigative Service Division and specialized in drug investigations. Lieutenant Orr was one of the kindest people to work here at the Mill Creek Police Department. And he had some serious health issues, and he will be missed. His family has requested that Mill Creek Police be involved in funeral services with more details to follow. Chief, do we have any further details on?
His calling hours actually today at a funeral home in Girard, and the funeral services tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you, Chief. We would just like to,
Mr. Chairman, can I add one more, unfortunately?
oh, there's one more? Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Claire.
I thank you very much. Sergeant Bolash lost his father-in-law as well. He was actually a neighbor of mine growing up. So, Mr. Freitas, I would also like to recognize formally that he passed away. He was actually just involved in our local, when we had the veterans come in from the Vietnam War. They actually got to drive in the cars with their, with some of our police officers, and he was here because he was a Vietnam War vet. And he was here when we hosted the wall. So I just want to make sure that we think of him as well.
Okay, thank you. So please keep these 4 families in your thoughts and prayers, and they will be missed. Executive sessions were held on February 16th and February 24th. On February 16th, discussion of real estate matters related to parks and rec facilities, utility easement, and a PennDOT easement. Personnel matters were discussed regarding union matters, and litigation regarding ordinance enforcement matters. On February 23rd, real estate matters relating to parks and rec facilities, utility easement, and PennDOT easement. Personnel matters regarding union matters, and litigation, orphans court petition, opioid settlement, and ordinance enforcement matters. Okay, next up under communications is Gateway District public meetings. Based off of our last meeting, we have arranged to set up 2 public meetings on the same day regarding the Gateway District plan. And those meetings will be held on March 21st, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. and then at 5 p.m. in this room. Do you have anything you wanted to add to that, Kim?
No, I don't think so. It will be, we will have information here regarding just some of the preliminary plans, but it really will be a listening session, I think, as well, but information gathering session. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we will be here. Okay, next up is consideration of special public meeting of the Mill Creek Township General Authority. That was brought up earlier. Just wanted to have some discussion on this, just based on the, engagement of the residents. And I know we are having the March 21st meeting, as we just announced, but, just wanted to have a brief discussion on, if there would be consideration for a special public meeting, prior to March 10th, due to the fact these, properties are under contract, and the execution date was February 8th, so it would appear that early March, there's going to be some more movement, with regards to these properties. So, I did speak with, one member of the authority today, and that person indicated they would be receptive to having a special public meeting. The next authority meeting, I believe, is March 22nd,
22nd.
Okay.
which is a day after
The 21st.
the 2 public meetings that we're having. So I just think it would be important to have, an authority meeting, prior to those meetings. And,
I think we did try to shoot for earlier. I think it was just schedules. I think, will Dan be in town? Or is he at the conference?
Yeah, but
When
part
is
of, the,
Pal-
part of the problem is the Pelraz conference, I think, is kind of in the middle of that.
This would
creates-
it would have to take place prior to March, prior to Pelraz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the dates of those are. I mean,
I
certainly.
think it's the 13th to the,
14th through the 17th.
okay. So, I'm definitely available anytime, that week. I would certainly like that to happen. I would be happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's a Friday, Friday the 10th, March 10th.
Yeah, any day
Is that what you
during
were
that
thinking?
week. I was thinking, between the 6th and the 10th.
Yeah. I think the only thing like I said, the only thing that I think we were worried about was Palraz, but I don't think but that's the following week. So yeah, I don't see any problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will try to arrange that, and
We'll need a quorum, so we'll have to
yes,
make sure that.
we will need a quorum.
Okay.
For sure. And so if we can get a quorum, we will, attempt to make that happen prior to March 11th.
And I'll ask our solicitor, what is the notice time for a special meeting?
It's just 24 hours.
24,
So,
okay.
the only issue would be is depending on the day it ultimately is scheduled, figuring out what the Times publishing schedule is, because if you recall, we ran into that Saturday problem a little while ago, because they don't publish on Saturdays anymore, so that would be the only thing we need to keep an eye on.
Okay,
Okay. Okay.
all right.
Solicitor Communications, Mr. Shaw?
Nothing on my end.
Okay. Okay, before we go into the citizens to be heard session, just want to establish some basic ground rules. First, while we understand that there are people here to speak regarding the 8th Street property acquisition, we also need to recognize that there are other people who may want to speak on different issues. We will start with that group first. Once we have completed that group, then we will move on to the 8th Street, anybody that wants to speak on that. Next, here are the rules under which this public comment period will be governed. Under our meeting rules, an individual has up to 5 minutes to speak. In addition, each speaker must identify themselves and provide their address for public comment. We ask that the speakers be respectful and succinct. In addition, given the number of people intending to speak, we ask that the speakers be limited to the residents or taxpayers of Mill Creek Township. Okay? So under citizens to be heard, is there someone that would like to speak on something other than 8th Street? Anything? Okay. Who wants to be first?
Good evening. Jay Pratt, 1252 Southview Drive. I have lived and worked in Mill Creek my entire life, other than 4 years away for college. Over the years, Mill Creek has grown, but really has not changed. For many years, our supervisors have promised flood control for the poor people between 26th and 12th Street, help for our volunteer fire departments, better roads, and a fully staffed police department, increased recreation opportunities, and countless other promises. Some are works in progress, others are constantly pushed to the back of the pack. In my opinion, this slow evolution to change is what causes younger people to seek opportunity elsewhere besides here. My wife and I have 3 adult sons. They were born and raised in Mill Creek and received world-class educations right here in Mill Creek. Presently, none live in Mill Creek. The median age in Erie County is 40.6 years, up 1.5 years over the last couple years. As younger people leave, our tax base shrinks as these ages go up. This is not good. Last summer, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law from New Jersey visited, and we took a ride. They own restaurants in New Jersey. We took a ride to see our local attractions, including the beach. As we drove past 8th Street looking towards Presque Isle, my brother-in-law looked around at the deserted buildings and called it 8th and Armpit. I support Mill Creek 100% in everything, and I was upset and I questioned his insult. He said his first impression of the area was not favorable, as he expected a more welcoming environment at the entrance of a beautiful lake. The time has come for this to happen, as past supervisors had put that progress on the back burner. The $7 million used to pay for the properties probably sits the bank earning very little interest. Investing in the area will result in a much more profitable return. Good leaders make tough decisions. The group of leaders who are spearheading this are doing it for the positive impact it will have in Mill Creek Township for many generations. Hopefully, many more of our younger people will stay here, and others from outside Erie County will move here. Change can be difficult, but doing nothing is too easy and solves nothing. Using social media for personal attacks is not productive and often is a result of people being misinformed. The 8th Street corridor is not being developed at the expense or exclusion of other important issues. Progress in Mill Creek does not have to be either or endeavor. It can be and also. It can be a plan where more than one initiative can be worked on and accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt.
Good evening. I'm Robin Crago, 4402 Westminster Boulevard.
Before you get started, I'm so sorry. If you want to move that microphone a little closer.
Is that better?
Matt, could you, or
better?
Rob, could you
Yeah.
move it closer for her? I know sometimes it's hard to hear in the back, in here.
The acoustics are not great.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Just
Is that
speak,
better?
yeah, there we go.
Okay.
That's good. Sorry. Not everyone has my teacher voice.
Okay. I'm Robin Crago, excuse me, 4402 Westminster Boulevard. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. The continuing progress of the Presque Isle Gateway District is really exciting. It's great to see the vision begin to become a reality. I've been thinking of the word vision a lot and how pivotal it is in reference to the future. Growing up in Pittsburgh during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, I watched as the leadership of Pittsburgh crafted a vision of a new city. The leadership realized in the 1930s that if it didn't change, there would be a mass exodus of young people. I found that fascinating that they knew it then. People were going to stay in the city. If they were going to stay in the city, they needed to craft a vision for change. My memories of growing up in Pittsburgh, my earliest memories are when I was around 7, and my parents would drive us, my brother and I, downtown, and would go across the Manchester Bridge. And to the left, there was an enormous scrap metal yard with giant cranes, and it was the scariest thing as a little kid watching that. And it was right on the banks of the Allegheny River. Along the banks, there were defunct barges and garbage, and if it weren't for vision to change the city, the Pirates would still be playing at Forbes Field, and the Steelers would still be playing at Pitt Stadium. That's the land where those stadiums now sit. It was vision. Vision's hard sometimes. In that area, there were historical buildings, there were people living, but the city worked with those people for change. It's not easy. The vision for the future has changed every major city surrounding Erie, including Cleveland, Buffalo, Columbus, and Pittsburgh. I remember taking our kids to the Jake when it first opened, and we'd park our car, and then we would run as fast as we could to get to the stadium because it was so defunct and awful. It's now, where we used to run, it's now Restaurant Row. The remarkable changes that have drawn businesses and therefore people, including young people who were born and raised in those cities, is remarkable as well. If there hadn't been a vision for the future of Erie, the hill on 2nd Street would just still be falling into the bay. There wouldn't be a road. And the North State Street projects would not be happening. All of these are a blend of vision. They're a blend of public money and private money, and it's a good thing. The Presque Isle Gateway District is part of that vision. It has been a wonderful place. It needs to be a wonderful place to walk, ride bikes, eat, and shop for residents and visitors. As our business, my husband's and my business, has been on 8th Street since my father-in-law moved in to the colony in 1954. And for 48 years, I watched people on 8th Street trying to maneuver the traffic. There's no walkability, there's no light. At night, there's no light. If you're a visitor, you don't want to walk on that street. And it's this prime property, and no one wants to be there at night because it's scary. So I think of the word vision, and though it's really hard, nothing's going to happen if we don't embrace that. So embrace Mill Creek was the right thing to say. We need to embrace the future. It's hard, it's expensive, it's a blend of money. But the thing that's great is that all the little kids who now go to see a game at PNC Park have no idea what it used to be and how scary it was. They just look at it as great and now. And that's what I want for our kids here. I would like for people to be able to get off of 90 and actually know where they're going to the peninsula. I would like them to get off of 90 and come on that beautiful Bayfront Highway and be able to get to the peninsula and actually know where they're going. We have no signage. There's nothing to let people know where we are. And we need that. So the change is hard, the change is expensive. It has a lot of things to be ironed out, but the ultimate vision is the goal, and it's the most important part. So I thank you for what you've done so far. All of you know who you are. It's phenomenal what's happened. So we need to work together. We can iron out the problems, but let's make it happen for our kids. And for us who are been blessed long enough to be here to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. I'm so sorry. I have a list here, a little note, and all the merchants at the colony would like you to have this.
Okay. Thank you, Robin. We'll make a copy of it.
Hi, John Collins, 5275 Wolf Road. I applaud the people who have supported the Embrace Mill Creek project. Tourism is critical to us. It's unfortunate what's developed. I really appreciate the planning that's gone in. In any good project, there are three things that have got to be in balance: cost, the schedule, and the performance, or the outcome of the product. In this case, cost is way out of whack. I think Sue Weber's done a pretty reasonable job of breaking it down to the cost per acre. $700,000 to $1.2 million per acre is what we've spent. We have important needs with the police department, the fire department, the hill engineering, flooding remediation plans. We can't waste this money. So I support the project, but I look at the purchases that have been made and may be made shortly, and they are wasteful and irresponsible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John.
My name is Duke Orr. I live at 219 Strathmore Avenue, and I am taxpayer. I would like to say my wife and I are both supportive of the project, but like the previous gentleman, we agree that you guys have grossly overpaid for this project. And a lot of that money, had you not overspent by $3 or $4 million, could have been used to take down the buildings and clear the land. I would also have a question. Have you contacted people to see if they're interested in buying these properties after you have completed the destruction?
To my knowledge, that has not occurred.
Okay. And my last question is, why didn't you include that?
Actually, no. We're working with a broker.
Okay.
Okay.
Why didn't you include that ugly pink building that's next door?
I can't answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Tom Smith. I live at 5936 Southland Drive. I'm a Pennsylvania certified real estate broker and a Pennsylvania certified real estate appraiser. I'm all for redevelopment of Mill Creek Township. Born and raised here, lived here my whole life. My concerns are the overpayment of the properties that are going on. And I also have, I'm still waiting for some correspondence. I sent Attorney Snow some emails on February 13th and have not responded back on what the correspondence was between the negotiations between the parties involved in buying and selling of the real estate, and then also waiting for a response on where the value of the sandbar came from. Because there's no appraisal that was done on that. So I'd like to know who came up with the sales price, how that was determined. Was it done by a broker, someone saying that, you know, here's the value, and how was that determined? If it was a broker, if they gave you a value, was a CMA done? Did they give you a value and they're not certified appraiser? You know, I'm waiting for responses from that. So I don't know if I will ever get those, how this works. You know.
Did you fill out a right-to-know request?
I've emailed Attorney Snow. That was never mentioned to me about
that's,
the right-to-know request.
Attorney Shaw?
Shaw, I'm sorry, yes. Attorney Shaw, yes.
Okay, just so you know, the proper channel would be to go through our township secretary, and you would submit a right-to-know request.
Okay, I was never told that, so.
Okay.
Okay, I will do that.
Sure.
And then, okay. And then my other question is, you hired a consultant. I would like to know what the consultant, you know, being paid his monthly fee, and I heard that there was a real estate commission on top of that. So I would like to know what the consultant provided service for you, and now you're overpaying for all these properties. So I'd like to know why that, you know, what their fee was, which I know, I'm not worried, but how they were involved and why you may or may not listen to them. Also, the real estate appraisers that you had done by a local firm, which is a reputable firm, why none of those values were used in the purchase of all these properties. There was only one property. It was the Manor Motel that was appraised for the $510,000 that it appears that's the sales price that you have agreed upon that was based, I'm assuming, on their appraisal. So I guess why was that appraisal used or not used? I don't know how that number came up. And then why was the other appraisals not used? For the Grasshopper, we had an appraised value of $145,000. You paid $335,354. Overpaid $190,354. So how was that sales price determined? Joe Roots, appraised value was $600,000. Sale price $1,364,646. Overpaid $764,646. The Grasshopper just transferred on December 22nd, 22 for $300. Baldwin's paid on 4/9/21, $575,000. So just wondering why that is. The Bel Air property appraised value was $2.7 million. Sales price was $4 million. Overpaid $1.3 million. There again, want to know, there was an appraisal that was provided to me that was done on 2016 for $4.7 million. I'm wondering if that was involved in the sales price. How all of a sudden you got $4 million from 2.7? I really don't know. And there again, the appraisal indicated that the Bel Air should not be demoed. It should still be used as a hotel. So now if you're demoing the building, I believe the appraisal had the land value very low, that now you're talking a bigger difference between the $1.3 million if now you have a vacant site. So based on all these appraisals, you have overpaid $2,255,000 for these properties based on the appraisals. However, that does not include any knowledge of the sandbar, which my understanding you're paying $962,500 for, which I don't understand where that number came from. There again, that number could be correct, incorrect, who knows, because nothing was provided as far as where that number came from. And then also, did that include a liquor license? Because obviously that was a bar restaurant, so was there a liquor license involved that the township could possibly sell and, you know, get that money back? My other problem is that, or I'd like to know how we're planning on recouping all these monies back, because it is taxpayers' money, and if you end up paying for all this and now you've demoed everything, you have values a lot less than what you paid for. My next question is, or thought is, you want these meetings in March. You've already bought 2 properties. You've already had agreements to buy the other properties. Why are we even having the meetings in March? Because you've already decided you're going to buy the properties. So you're wasting my time, everybody's time, just to have a meeting for what? So you can possibly get reelected next time? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to have meetings that you've already made your mind and have bought properties for. So it just doesn't make sense.
Sir, it's part of the process. This is just the first part of the process.
The part of the process should have been done in December, November, October, when you were thinking about buying all these properties, correct?
I want to thank
Not in
you.
March afterwards.
And I want to thank you for being a part of the process and being an engaged citizen. We really appreciate it. This is just the first step in a long process. So
But
we're
you've
looking
already
for a
bought-
lot of community engagement as we move forward.
Okay, have you already bought 2 of the properties? Have you already closed on 2 of the properties? I didn't hear you. Yes?
I said yes.
Okay, so yeah, so having the meeting on a property you've already bought just seems kind of irrelevant. So, so I guess, you know, you've hired consultants, appraisals. It appears that,
Mr. Chairman, it's been over 5 minutes, just so you know.
okay, I'm just finishing up right here. You've hired consultants, appraisals, and it seems like you didn't, you know, listen to any of what they said. So it just seems like that you've had your own agenda the whole time and not really listening to what they provided you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay.
My name's Richard Weber from 5338 Norris Drive. I've been a lifelong, or a Mill Creek resident for close to 40 years, and I've never seen anything like this happen, number one. This scheme was, again, I've been involved in businesses. Our family had several sporting goods stores in the area. We had one on 8th Street years ago, and I must tell you, that was our worst performing store. Sales per square foot were not what we had anticipated. We feel the 8th Street area just isn't a good commercial area. It's just a tough time. You've probably seen decade after decade, businesses have come and gone. I'm not going to name them. But as far as the numbers go, that last gentleman hit the nail on the head, except he missed some numbers. He didn't factor in what it's going to cost to demolish these properties. He didn't tap in what it's going to cost to pay the law firm for the work that's being done, the realtor, the transfer fees. He missed a lot of fees. By the time you clear that land, you're going to have another 30 or 40% tapped into that. So your numbers are actually low. it's, in addition, the whole process was skewed as far as where you got the money from. You got the money from an account that was supposed to be just for capital improvements, and there was no way Mill Creek Township supervisors were allowed to tap into that and pay more than the appraised value of properties. So that's obviously why this authority was formed. You weren't allowed to pay over the appraised values. So you form an authority and you pay these astronomical prices. And who's on the authority? 3 supervisors and 2 other people. To me, it's just not right. Anyway, and again, you had no public input, as far as I know, and as far as most of the people in this room know. So like I said, the whole process has been skewed from the beginning, and the prices you're paying are just out of whack. And what are you going to end up with? You're going to end up with $12 or $15 million in vacant land. It just doesn't make sense. Again, I keep repeating that same thing. So, yeah, I hope you can consider putting stuff on hold at some point. For example, a good example will be the Bel Air, okay? That's used to be a wonderful place for decade after decade. Ran on some tough times, maybe because of COVID, whatever reason. That could easily be repurposed for another motel, perhaps an economy-style motel. There's several different brands. That happens all the time. The motel business, they constantly change ownerships and structures. And to me, the perfect place for a motel would be right where the Bel Air's at. And by the way, there's property across the street from the Bel Air that's for sale right now. It's 5.6 acres, and it's the asking price is around $900,000, and it's likely to sell for less than that. So you're going to have property likely across the street that's probably going to sell for less than $150,000 an acre, and you're going to have to try to get $1 million plus an acre for vacant land at the Bel Air if you demolish it. So anyway, very disappointed in our township right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Yes, you may.
Now try to be brief. That was my husband. Oh my God, you should see our house. The paper's all clear. The things he's putting up. Sue Weber, 5338 Norris Drive. By the way, my husband is a very smart man. He ran the Erie Sports Store in the face of big box competition for many, many years, and he did a great job. First of all, I think the members of the board, not you, Jim Bach, because you voted against this, you owe your treasurer an apology. He asked you not to do this. He sat down and showed you where the township's going to run out of money if you do this. And nobody listened to him. And risking his job a couple weeks ago, he came out in public against it. Because he's a Mill Creek resident too, and he can see the financial ruin this is going to cause. I'm going to give you a little example. Walmart on Westridge Road pays $49,000 a year in township taxes. Let's make that 50, okay? You put something big like Walmart, you put something with the assessed value of Walmart on that property, and you take $50,000 a year, and you times it, you divide it by that 15 million or the 7 million, you won't recoup the money, even if something like that goes there. You won't recoup that money in 160 years that comes out to. Really? That is just bizarre. Again, follow me here. If you put something on there with the value of Walmart, and it builds, and it pays $50,000 a year like Walmart does, how many years, you do the math, that comes out with the 15 million you'll end up with? That's crazy. You've lost all the money from our reserve, and you're not getting it back no matter what happens. And I would like to say, the Bel Air was never on the market. If it had been on the real estate market and somebody had a chance to buy it for what it was appraised at, yes, somebody would have done that. Nobody had a chance. The Manor Motel was not on the real estate market, and the appraisal says no repairs needed. You go down Peninsula Drive and you see peeling paint on the side. What you don't see is new roofs on all the buildings, new electric service, and the appraisal talks about that. And the appraisal says the highest and best use is just what it is now. Grasshopper was never for sale. Private market would have taken care of that. Roots was for sale, and then when Greg Baldwin bought it for $575, he never had it for sale again. It was for lease. If that had been put up for sale at the $600,000 appraised value, someone would have come and done it. Look at the West Erie Plaza. That is not public money, and it's beautiful. We are speculating in property with public money, with all our reserves, the sale of our water system that belonged to all these people. You're taking it, and you never asked them. You never got on TV, you never got on the radio, and you never said, would you mind if we did this? Would you mind if we took your money and used it for something like this? How can you do that? That special meeting of the authority has to happen. It has to happen Monday, because if it doesn't, the due diligence clause for purchasing the Bel Air is running out. It has to happen Monday or Tuesday, or that goes through. And I think everybody sitting here knows that. So you too, and thank you, Kim, and thank you, Jim, you said you're in favor of having that. So call somebody else on the authority, get one more vote, get 3 out of 5, and have that meeting Monday or Tuesday, and put that Bel Air project on hold. Stop it right now until you've heard from everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Anybody else wish to speak?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Brent Davis, 609 East Court. It's a little different on this side of the podium here tonight, but I picked an interesting night to come out here and commend you for taking this step with the professional fire service. And I guess we walked into a storm I wasn't expecting, but it's good to hear what the residents have to say. With the EMS volunteers going from historically 300,000 volunteers in Pennsylvania down to 30,000, we're in dire straits. As a Mill Creek resident, I appreciate you all making the investment in public safety for our houses. Just looking at the data, in 2022 alone, Erie County had 1,167 dropped EMS and fire calls. 1,167. And what that means is, that doesn't mean that was ignored, but it means Station A gets the first call. They didn't respond. 6 minutes later, Station B gets the call. And sometimes, in some instances, we're so busy that can go out to 12, 18, 24 minutes. Well, if your loved one's in cardiac arrest or your home is burning, sometimes that's the difference of survival and not. So I appreciate your taking the steps, and I think we're going to see this in a broader community scale, moving towards these collaborations, consolidating to save taxpayers' money. I appreciate that investment. The second would be, I've read some articles, and Supervisor Clear and I sat down and talked about this 8th Street project, and I'm not here to weigh in on this point. I don't feel I have all the facts to really do that intelligently. However, I will say this doesn't necessarily have to be an or. When it comes to terms for stormwater, we as the residents of Mill Creek inherit problems that are upstream from us. And I think this is a county-wide problem that, through the collaborations with the CATO, potentially a stormwater authority, to figure out how can we do larger containment areas to prevent these large flash floods from happening out in Summit and LaBeouf, and where they need to be managed, as opposed to all of that falling disproportionately on the backs of the folks the closer to lake and the watershed. So, I think we need to just be mindful of that. I do hear what these residents have to say about price and process. I think we potentially are a little left of center there, and I think we need to be judicious in that. However, just sticking to the facts, and these are things I didn't intend to speak on tonight. However, I think it's prudent that we look at the facts. So the facts being, Presque Isle, many folks don't recognize that we attract 4.7 million visitors to Presque Isle alone. To put that into perspective, apparently she's talking in my pocket here in my phone. It's the big government watching, it's not us though. So 4.7 million visitors, to put that into perspective, that is the equivalent of the Grand Canyon or Yosemite National Park. So you think about that. We compete on a numerical level with the Grand Canyon. So the average resident, or the average tourist that comes to Erie County, spends on average about $85 a day. So you extrapolate that number, Those visitors to Presque Isle alone, that's $399.5 million that comes into our economy per year. So I think we need to be cautious. I think there's a compromise, a common sense compromise here in the center. With my master's in economic development, we look at these things every day at the county. We look at the data. I think there is a pathway forward. Who was that? I think it was Mr. Pratt. Who was it that talked about the relative coming to town and saying, "Wow, this is eighth in armpit"? Well, if we're bringing nearly $400 million of investment based on how this is, it's the long-term trajectory of what our community is. I truly believe that I was elected based on fresh faces, new ideas, but a new trajectory for our county. So we need to have that courage to make these investments, but we have to do that judiciously, and we have to do that intelligently. So, I mean, I didn't intend to come here and speak on any of that. However, I just want to let you know that we do have the interests of all the taxpayers, but in that compromise, we also offer that partnership to Mill Creek to make sure that we can get these things done. I know I've seen Tina Mengine in here, our redevelopment authority director. There's a lot of ways that we can put our capital stack together to achieve these. The other data point, and I think the police chief here can attest to this, would be folks talk about repurposing a motel. In terms of development and public safety, it's not really a great idea, because if you look at the majority of EMS and police calls, human trafficking, things of these natures, these lower end motels draw that certain type of clientele, if that's what you would want to put it. But typically it draws a criminal element, and they call that broken windows theory of sorts. We need to be careful about what we're inviting and what we're allowing to fertilize, that sometimes gaining hold of that middle ground before it becomes blighted is the intelligent investment. And I'm saying this as a fiscal conservative. We need to make sure that we set these anchors, but we do it intelligently. Again, I mean, it sounds like, I would have some issues with the price in the process. It sounds like that's a train that's already left the station, unfortunately, but I'm just here to offer my partnership and look forward to your partnership in solving this stormwater and EMS issues in the future. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Hi, Pete Cabea, 4502 Grand Harbor Drive. I'm also a planning commissioner on your board, and what I'm concerned with here, and after listening to everybody here, everybody wants to see Mill Creek go in the right direction. However, being on the Planning Commission board, I am shocked to hear of what happened, the creation of the authority, the purchase of the property. These things should have come through us. And I think, as Brenton Davis just said, there's a compromise here that has to go on, and there's a huge learning curve. And we can take in the information, but we need to talk about it. And I don't understand why none of this stuff came in front of us ahead of time. It seems to me like things went too fast, and there is a compromise. You do want to enhance A Street. We're all agree with that. Presque Isle gets more people than Yellowstone. There's an opportunity there, and we want to make the right decisions. And with the community's input and talking and working out things as we do on the committee, half of our planning commission is green and the other half is pro-business, but we're able to put things together and hopefully do things the best we can for this Mill Creek environment. And I think you need to slow down, listen to what these people are saying, and go about what you want to do, but there has to be more input on here. I think you went too fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Jacqueline Fiddler Garnin, 4160 Fiedler Drive. I totally was not expecting to speak tonight, and I just, Tom Smith, I had to ask what his name was. So he's an appraiser and real estate broker, And to me, he asked a lot of very legitimate questions. When and how will those questions be answered? Do we have an answer? I mean, these
when-
are legitimate questions.
And I believe that he will submit a right to know request, is that right?
How long does it take for the right to know process to happen?
Cheryl, what is it?
We have to answer the request 5 days after it is received. And if it needs legal review, we can request a 30-day extension.
So the timing doesn't seem real good here to get a lot of community input waiting for that thing. It's just very discouraging. And I will say, I do want to save the school. As an educator in Mill Creek, there's just so many reasons to save that school. And I was hoping somebody else was going to speak on it that has more knowledge than I do, but what I've heard, we need to save the school. But I also think we need answers. We need some answers.
Thank you.
Mary Ellen Majock, Appleman Road, and thanks for the invitation, because this whole thing is just mind-boggling to me, so I'm moving towards, let's see if we can at least save the school. It is one of the oldest schoolhouses in the county, okay? I'm doing a little bit of research very slowly, but there are very few little schoolhouses in Mill Creek, and the ones that are there are nicely kept and publicly owned. Grasshoppers isn't blighted, okay? Hopefully there will be another news story about grasshoppers, because we went there last week. I'd buy it if I could, but not for what the township just paid for it. So just to support this, I have a letter here that came from Preservation Happens Here, 2018 to 2023, Pennsylvania's statewide historic preservation plan. And I'm just going to read a few excerpts. First, historic places are many things to many people. They help define who we are. Historic places are our homes, local businesses, places of worship, and schools. Historic places are the foundation of Pennsylvania's tourism economy. Historic places bring neighbors together to rally around properties that connect them to their shared history. They teach us about past ways of life and how communities grew from natural resources, ingenuity, and hard work. Preservation successes are not always called out with big signs or press releases, but they are happening every day nonetheless. As Pennsylvanians, we all have a role in securing the future of historic places that tell our personal, community, state, and national stories. It's now all up to all of us to ensure preservation happens everywhere. And this was written by Andrea McDonald, Bureau Director and Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer from PHMC, who lived in Erie.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Anyone else wish to speak tonight?
I'm Nancy Shea, and I live at 4345 Holiday Drive. And after hearing everybody, I think on social media, we've been portrayed as being negative and being against the project, but actually we're not against the project at all. What we're against is basically two things: the formation of the authority, for starters. And that authority, I guess, came into existence last October 11th. And at the time, you listed 5 members. You listed the 3 supervisors, plus Dave Zimmer from Erie Bank, and Robin Waldinger. But by the time the first inaugural meeting of that General Authority was formed, or the inaugural meeting was November 9th. Robin Waldinger had already been replaced with Cheryl Mitchell. Why was that? Like, Robin was the original member, but Cheryl was the one that was on the roster at the first meeting. You know, how did that happen? And the major question I have is, how do these random individuals have so much decision-making power in our township? And they have, their decisions seem to hold higher regard than our decisions as citizens, as our input.
Mr. Shaw, you want to address that, or about the replacement?
Yeah, Cheryl Mitchell was the person that we were originally talking to about that, and we hadn't gotten a response from her by the time that all the various notices were out and so forth. So Robin stood in for that purpose, and then she resigned, and the supervisors then appointed Cheryl to the position. It was
So you swapped
as
it
simple
out.
as that. Yeah, it was a timing issue, frankly.
Timing, okay. Well, the second issue is the transparency issue. And there's one citizen that I noticed was at the meetings. I've read through all the minutes and all the agendas, even though you didn't televise that. And how, Mrs. Clear, will the next authority and future authority meetings be recorded for our viewing at home? Live stream?
You know what, we haven't had a discussion because our meeting isn't until, the 22nd of March. But we do have a communications coordinator now, and that was our hope, was that we were going to
But
be able to.
I asked you that at the February meeting, February 14th. I asked you point blank if you would record it. or
Yeah,
we're going to.
and I said, yes, we were going to work on that with our communications
What have you
coordinator.
done so far on that?
So I've talked with our communications coordinator, and we're planning on doing that.
Did you talk to him yet? Did you say you are planning to talk to him, or
No,
you have talked to
we
him?
have already discussed it, and we just have not worked out the details, that's all.
Okay, so that's a no on the next meetings being recorded?
Did I say no?
Well, you didn't say yes.
We are planning on putting these online, yes.
Okay. There's a man that attended a lot of the meetings. His name was Dennis McAndrew. And at the inaugural meeting of the authority, he asked Attorney Shaw, he said, "What is the purpose and goals of the authority?" And Mr. Shaw, do you remember what you told him?
Not offhand, but I'm sure you'll tell me.
Yeah. Mr. Shaw replied that the authority will assist the Gateway District plans, large projects, and possible stormwater funding in the future.
Correct.
I thought that was an evasive answer. I thought that was a half-truth, because what is the real reason the authority was formed?
For the three reasons I stated, yes.
Was the authority formed for the purchasing properties?
That was one of the benefits of the authority, yes.
Okay, but you didn't mention that to him?
That was part of the
That's-
Gateway
that's kind of
District
been,
plan.
part of the problem, is the fact that we did not know that the authority was going to be purchasing properties. We thought you were going to assist in developing them. Which is it?
The authority was given powers to do both.
And was not the other reason for the authority was so that you could condemn the properties? It gave you broader power to condemn them so that you could...
One of the powers of the authority is condemnation power, which is
Right.
broader than the second-class
And you
township
didn't have that
has.
as supervisors, did you?
Excuse me?
You didn't have that as supervisors? You had to form the authority. to get-
Supervisors have condemnation authority. It is somewhat narrower than an authority.
So this gave you broader powers to decide the blighted buildings, so you could tear them down?
I'm sorry.
This gave you broader authority to condemn the buildings so that you could raise them, correct?
Well, it gives you broader power to condemn it, whether it doesn't really impact whether you're going to raise them or not.
Are the properties blighted?
Excuse me?
Are the properties blighted?
Some of the properties certainly are, I would characterize as blighted. I mean,
What were your
certainly the
criteria?
area. Ma'am, I'm not going to get into a deposition with you.
Well, I'm just trying to get answers because you haven't been transparent to this point. That's why we're all here.
Okay.
Another question that Dennis McAndrew asked you at another meeting was, what will the authority cost the township? Do you remember what you answered?
I don't.
You said none of the board members are compensated.
That is correct. None of the board members are
Are you
compensated.
compensated for being on that board?
I get paid to be their solicitor, yes.
So
but the
you are
board-
compensated?
I'm compensated, but the board members are not.
The board members are not. But I felt you did not answer the question, what will the authority cost the township? Because so far, it seems to have cost the township $7.1 million in real estate purchases, $60,000 to the real estate consulting fees, $213,000 for real estate commissions, the cost of insuring the properties, demolishing the properties, and the cost to us of having them removed from the tax rolls. So actually, the authority cost us a lot. That's all. Thanks.
Am I allowed to speak, although I'm not a resident? I'm a
Are you-
resident of Summit Township.
Are you
My
a
name is-
taxpayer in Mill Creek?
I own a couple of properties, yes. My
And you-
name is Laban Marsh
can
of
speak.
2231 Dorn Road in Waterford, PA. I'm also the broker and owner of Marsh & Marsh Real Estate Services that has an office at 4202 West Ridge Road. In 2020, we bought the building in 2012. It had 9.5 acres, and we spent about $220,000 to improve it, tie it into public water, so that we could operate our business out of it. In 2020, we acquired 6 acres that was landlocked by Gus Picardo, who was a D10 rep. Having that land, I was anxious to try to see what we might be able to do with it. Traveling on it, we absorb a substantial amount of stormwater. We have the only culvert that runs under CSX and Norfolk Southern's Railroad on our property. Mill Creek owns a small sliver in between West Ridge Road and our 15.5 acres. I've sent an email recently to all the supervisors, to Mr. Puz and Waldinger. My concern that dropped in 2021, and since we have a lot of public here, I just want to bring up the official map that was passed in part with Embrace Mill Creek. In the second paragraph of the taking on your website, on the website, it mentions the word taking. This is not taking. What it does says is that the township will have 12 months from the initiation of development, which I asked to have that begin last Friday. I don't want to get into engineering costs, any of those things involved if the township intends to take the property from us. I understand eminent domain would have to require some form of compensation. As a real estate broker, we rely on comparable sales. With what's going on 8th Street, as the real estate broker of our family, I felt it was important to reach out and begin that process. Also understanding costs involved with the drawings, the engineering, all of that. I didn't want to incur any of that if it was the township's intention to take the property for, it's listed as preservation or public space. So my concern is that overreaching official map, everything about it. As a broker, I think private property rights is vital as an American. And that is very concerning to me because I own property. I have a couple rentals, but my business, my family's business, we own an office on Peach Street in Summit, on Route 8 in Corey, and we currently have our Buffalo Road office on the market for sale. And so I do have an idea of how the current commercial market is, which is another reason it's a very interesting time. So I am just expressing that of that 15.5 acres, you can look up in Massachusetts. I went to school at the University of Connecticut. Boston College has a field house that has stormwater management underneath the building, underneath the property. It has full use. I'd love to have a track and field, indoor track and field facility right over here by the airport, get tons of people coming in here. But right now, it's got a foot of water because all of it runs through our property and then trickles out the culvert. So I have so much hope for this township. I'm a McDowell graduate. I have nephews that will be attending McDowell, and I plan to be here for many years. I have 3 brothers. 2 do live in Mill Creek. And so, as real estate broker, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the general public. And I just needed to raise that concern of the official map. And yet, as I mentioned to Mrs. Clear, it's a great opportunity for a private-public partnership, which is what I'm sure that official map really intended. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate all the due diligence and effort that goes on in the township. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Doug Prozan, 3286 Lakefront Drive, and I'm actually reluctant to get up here, but I think you should be aware of something if you're not already. There's myself and several other people, Mill Creek investors, who are about to put together a letter of intent on some of these properties for you. So you're going to have something coming to you quicker than you might have realized. And you're going to have to decide what to do. But I just thought you should be forewarned, because this is a serious group. They're all Mill Creek people, and they've got enough wherewithal behind them to really make that area down there pretty attractive. And I hope you'll look at it, take a good look at it, and decide what to do.
Doug, I didn't hear where, you said a letter of intent for where? I didn't hear the location.
It'll be the Bel Air property, not to be used as a hotel at all.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you, Doug. Anybody else wish to speak this evening? I hear you.
Good evening, taxpayers, residents, citizens, and administration. I think there must be a virus going around. Can you hear me back there? Yes. Good, thank you. There must be a virus going around specifically for Mill Creek Township. Maybe more specifically to, and it's transmitted within law firms. Let me share with you a couple of things. Every attorney in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania takes an oath of office to defend, protect, and uphold the U.S. and the Pennsylvania Constitution. When you violate the oath of office, especially in the form of the violations that they take that oath, they could be disbarred. 6 years ago, I asked a question to the school board directors and the solicitor and the former superintendent, is this legal of what we are doing? And that was the defamation lawsuit against me by the previous board directors, which was continued after there was a change. Well, lo and behold, the Honorable Judge Brabender ruled in January. 6 years, $300,000, my cost. What was your cost? $200,000 approximately, give or take $25,000. Do our elected and appointed public officials protect you as citizens in Mill Creek and in America? I don't think so. Let me address the school district. Do you realize what you're doing? Since 2012, Mill Creek lost 1,100 students. Why? Taxes. And really, when you think about it, is it the organizational and financial management of the district? Your taxes have been going up, right?
Okay, Mr. Aliotta, your time is approaching, and if you could...
I have
Wrap
3 minutes, 32 seconds.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
1 minute, 28 to go.
Okay, well, I
go
clicked
for
on
it.
when I started.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you. Look, it's very simple. If you have a vision, before the vision, you have to have a strategy. With the strategy, you have to have tactics. What I'm sharing with the taxpayers and the administration, I'm asking a question, or several questions. Whatever money you have expended, according to the government accounting procedure, and the treasurer could probably validate it, was it in your budget for this year? That's number one. Did the auditor validate those expenses? I challenge you to make sure that everything you've done is legal, because I will go out in a community and lead a lawsuit against what is happening in this township. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide my freedom of speech, including the participants in the attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
My name's Eric Kronk. I'm a resident of Mill Creek Township, 4331 West 38th. I'm also a business owner in Mill Creek Township on West 12th Street. I've lived here my whole entire life, 53 years old, except for a few years where my wife and I lived in the city to start out, and I was frustrated back then of the lack of progress on development of the Bayfront, and frustrated that things just always move so slow in this area. And, you know, we moved out to Mill Creek, and I thought, you know what? I'm back home. And because Mill Creek's great, Mill Creek's different, Mill Creek's better. I applaud, I mean, what Mr. Pratt said and what Mr. Davis said, I couldn't say better. And I agree with them wholeheartedly. And I think it's just important to have a little bit of perspective reset. I'm not going to pick apart the financial part of this. We can argue till the cows come home. You can do that with any type of a business deal. But if you have the long-term vision here, with the investment in the long-term vision of this area to make it great, sometimes maybe you have to overpay in the short term if your long-term benefit is worth it. And what I've heard today here, even from some people who disagree with the methods that this has gone about, is that we don't disagree with that part. And I would urge everybody to keep this in proper perspective for our kids and the kids that follow here, to make this a great area. We have so many people that come visit this area for what it is. They don't come here, I'm sorry, I like history as much as the next person. Nobody knew about the schoolhouse before this started. They don't come to this area for these types of things. They come here for the peninsula in the summer, and this city is better in this township is better than people give it credit for. And I applaud the tough decisions that will be made on this, and I think the township is headed in the right direction for what we have to do here. I applaud the people who've come before us. Mr. Reel, you have a substantial investment in this community. I applaud all the work that you've done in the colony and that you continue to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cronk. Anybody else? Okay, thank you for all your input in. What's that? No.
Mr. Chairman, before.
Denied.
I just want to recognize some of our elected officials that actually came here today. We have actually Chairman of Erie County Council, Brian Shank, who I used to serve with. Hello, sir. We have County Executive Brenton Davis here. Thank you so much. And we also have School Board Chairperson Gary Winchell. So I just want to thank them for visiting us here in Mill Creek Township.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And I'll second it.
Okay. We are adjourned at 6:40 p.m. Thank you, everyone.